everybody. It is Dean Z speaking to you from the Jeffries Lounge in Jeffries Hall at the University of Michigan Law School. Today I want to talk to you about being naughty. I have done episodes, or at least one episode before, where I talk about what happens if you fail to disclose something in your application that is misconduct, say, a minor in possession charge or cheating on an exam, and then we find out about it in law school. And I've talked about the problems of that, and I've also talked about, how to go about disclosing that kind of behavior. This is something a little different that I want to talk about because I've been thinking about it a lot lately because it's come up a few times this year, and that is people who commit misconduct in the admissions process itself. So I want to talk about what are some examples and what happens when it occurs. I truly expect that the vast majority of you are not candidates for committing any kind of misconduct in the admissions process. It's a very small percentage overall of the applicants who do so. But there's some small things that could trip you up. And so I want you to be aware of that. And also, honestly, it's just very interesting. Okay, so what kinds of things might someone do that would trip them up? Sometimes people, this is a pretty common one, people leave out a transcript. You took college classes when you were in high school and you feel like, I shouldn't, and you got a C and you don't want anyone to know it, and you're like, I shouldn't have to declare that, that doesn't make any sense. Or you did a semester of grad work, didn't pursue the degree, you don't want to tell people those grades, they weren't great maybe. Or maybe it's hard to get that transcript, or whatever. You just leave out a transcript. And sometimes the people in the admissions office piece together that you should have had an extra transcript that you did not include. That is misconduct in the admissions process because you are instructed to include every transcript of post-secondary school work. And that can get you in a lot of trouble. So that's a pretty easy one. And honestly, sometimes people no doubt do that and slide through and no one ever catches it. But I know that there are some admissions offices in this world where people are extremely detail-oriented for things like that. And I will tell you that in my office, for the last couple of years, we've had someone who's extremely detail-oriented, who it's not even a reader, it's this person who processes, one of the people who processes our applications, and he just really picks up on any inconsistencies and timelines very quickly. So he is a secret asset there. But this could come up in a lot of different ways. Now, what happens if you commit misconduct and a school realizes it? In most cases, the school will reach out to you and ask for an explanation. So that's the good news. So if it's something pretty minor, you will have an opportunity to say, I am so sorry, I messed that up, let me correct it, and maybe that will be the end of it. A school doesn't have an obligation, though, to reach out to you, so they may not. And if they do reach out and you don't have a satisfactory response, then the next step, or if they choose not to reach out at all, the next step is to go to the Law School Admissions Council, which has a committee staffed by volunteers from various law schools that assesses any claims of misconduct. And there's a whole investigation that then occurs. And it's got lots of process, so they will reach out to you, they will get your side of the story, they will reach out to the school, get all the information from the school, and you can have a hearing where you get to talk about what occurred. The school that reported you is not usually included in that hearing, so it's just you talking to the people from LSAC. And then they come up with a decision. You have a right to appeal, so there's more process there. And then at the end of it all, they will issue a decision. And if they find that there was no misconduct, they will tell the reporting school, and that will be that. If there is misconduct, then they send a declaration of that to any school to which you have applied, and then it will also be made a part of your permanent record in the event that you apply in some future year. In many, many cases, if you were to have a misconduct finding, it would be game over, honestly, for you getting into law school. I guess it could depend on the school and the nature of the misconduct, but in general, if it's serious enough to rise to the level that someone has made a complaint and it is being pursued by LSAC, then it is something that most law schools don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. So I already gave you one example of the transcripts, which is what I consider one that is sort of like a misdemeanor level offense, and also could be done perhaps without intending to. Intending to admit something. But there are other kinds, and this is the part where I feel like almost no one listening to this is going to be in this category of human being, but I thought you might be interested in some of them. So some of the examples that occur or that have occurred for me, one was someone who forged a bunch of letters of rec. I think I might have mentioned this before. Forged a letter of rec, including one that was allegedly signed by former President Bill Clinton. So that person not only is not ever going to go to law school, he had to have some up close and personal time with the federal government where he explained to the Secret Service about why he was impersonating a president or whatever. So that was no doubt not one of his better days. One that happened a few times in my career is someone who's, approaches us about competing financial aid and says, I got an X $1,000 award from this other school, and something about the amount that they named or something about the way they described the award made me suspicious, and so I would reach out to the other school, and indeed I would find it was a lie. That was a pretty frequently occurring mistake, if you want to call it that. Some more exciting, interesting ones are one that occurred this year where someone had applied last year with a not great undergraduate GPA, and so decided that must be the thing that is holding them back. So decided to fix that by inventing a new institution and making a whole fake transcript. He had a above 4.0 GPA from that new invented school and transcript, and thus overriding his prior GPA. He said that was the degree-granting school. That was a pretty easy one to figure out as a problem because we had the prior application too. Not all schools go back and look at the prior application, but we did, and so it was very evident. And then also because he'd made up an institution, he had gone to the trouble of also making up a website, but the person in my office who's so detail-oriented knew how to look up and figure out when the website was formed. So it was like 2 months before he'd applied, so we knew that was false. Once someone came to my office and said they had been admitted, but that a computer virus had clawed back all communications that we had sent them from both our computer and their computer. So he couldn't prove that he was admitted, but he really needed me to just let him into class. He was there with his parents too. That didn't go well for him. So there's some people out there who will go to great lengths to get into law school and use very poor judgment to do so, and then assuming they've applied to a law school where people are not completely asleep at the switch, they get caught, and as I say, that's kind of game over for their law school aspirations for the rest of time, because it will be permanently in their record. As I say, I don't really think some of those latter examples are things that anyone who's watching these videos is likely to ever do, but it's because of those kinds of latter examples that we have this whole misconduct process, and so even smaller misconduct can really end up being, having very long-term negative consequences for you. So be careful, be scrupulously accurate in everything you submit. If you have any questions about whether or not something needs to be submitted or whether there's a problem in leaving out certain information or something, talk to your pre-law advisor, call a law school, go to one of the many recruiting events that occur in the fall and talk directly to a law school counselor. Get some advice, get some input so that you don't fall into this trap, because it's not a place you want to be. All right, so that's pretty straightforward, but I hope you found that edifying. That's all I have to say about misconduct for the time being. Now, grammar. This is a weird one to me because it's very clear, but it's a mistake that lots of people make, so it must not be so obvious to anybody else. People often write essays about something that occurred in high school. The term high school is 2 words, high school. For whatever reason, lots of people love to try to make that one word, so it's like high school altogether. And that is a thing that happens with language. Things that are 2 words sometimes become one over the course of time, but we're not there yet with high school. So keep it 2 words because it always jumps out at me and gets my attention in not the way you want. So yeah, high school. Just always think of it with a little pause in between. All right, that's all I have to say. Thank you, as always, for listening. Thank you to Dustin for everything. And please leave comments. Please ask us questions. Please tell us how we can be useful to you. I've gotten some really great feedback in the last couple of weeks from people who said that, you know, I've been useful. Some people who haven't even started applying yet and have been watching, and some people who, you know, didn't apply to Michigan, applied to other schools and wanted me to know that it was useful. And I can't tell you how much that means to me. I love to hear that. But that is the whole goal, to be useful. So let me know what questions you have, and we will try to get them answered. So email us at law.jd.admissions@umich.edu and put vlog in the subject line, or leave a comment below. And wherever you go, go blue.